Hey everybody, I'm Natasha Kirchek, and thanks for joining us for ILTV's weekly program One-on-One with Alan Dershowitz. We want to give you, our viewers, a chance to have your questions answered by Professor Dershowitz, one of America's greatest legal minds. He's a leading expert on criminal and constitutional law, civil liberties, and the Arab-Israeli conflict. Hi, Professor Dershowitz.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
All right, so let's get started, Professor. As you know, every week we open our show with a special guest. Our first guest actually happens to be a household name. Professor Dershowitz, you recently appeared at the Jerusalem Post conference where iconic talk show host Larry King received a Lifetime Achievement Award. Our ILTV crew caught up with you and Larry having a friendly conversation in the green room before you went on stage. So let's listen in.
Without answering in one word, Trump. Good for Israel, bad for Israel, elaborate.
Unpredictable for Israel, which probably is good for Israel, because he may shake things up. The current status quo is unsustainable, and if Trump's unpredictability can put pressure on everybody, maybe to think a little harder about what they can do to compromise, I think it would be a good thing.
But there's a negative to it.
There's always a negative, right?
To an unpredictability. We like to know what someone's particular case. If you have someone who is unpredictable, that could be dangerous.
It could be, and it could also make Israel more reluctant to give up anything, saying, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? It's unpredictable. We need certainty. So it's a two-edged sword. And, you know, the Chinese curse made you live in interesting times. Donald Trump has made us live in interesting times.
Before we dig deeper into American politics, you've appeared on the Larry King Show several times, which is a very unique experience to have. First of all, tell us a little bit about what that's like, and if you can remember, are there any questions that he's asked you that have stood out to you?
Well, I've been on Larry's show dozens and dozens of times, including before he was on television, on radio. And indeed, when he had some heart surgery, I actually filled in for Larry King and became the host of his show. For 2 shows, I got to interview Joan Baez and other people. It was great fun. Larry tries to make you say things you don't want to say. Obviously, he probed me over and over again about my views on whether O.J. Simpson did it or didn't do it, something the Prime Minister of Israel also pressed me on. So everybody wanted to know, and of course, no lawyer can ever disclose what his client told him or whether he or she believes the client is guilty. Look, Larry's a great man. He's in his early 80s now. He's on top of his game. He's very quick. We grew up right near each other. I grew up in the Borough Park section. He grew up in the Bensonhurst section of Brooklyn. We both knew Sandy Koufax, the great Brooklyn Dodger pitcher, growing up. And whenever Larry and I get together, we schmooze about the past, about the present, and about the future. So I was thrilled to have an opportunity just to sit down with him for a few minutes and have a conversation.
So you've never actually answered his O.J. Simpson question straight? You found a way to get around that?
I never will, never will. When the Prime Minister asked me that question many, many years ago, I responded by saying, so does Israel have nuclear weapons? And he responded saying, well, of course I can't tell you that. And I said, aha, of course I can't tell you that. So lawyers are not free to disclose whatever their opinions or beliefs might be about their client's innocence or guilt.
Well, Professor, don't worry. Our next question is not about O.J. Simpson. But getting back to the political scene, there is a lot going on in Washington. It seems that many Americans are still fighting the last election campaign well after President Trump's first 100 days in office. President Trump just fired FBI Director James Comey, as we all know, which many are comparing to what took place back in 1973 with President Richard Nixon. Now, why did this happen, and what kind of impact do you think it will have on Trump's legitimacy as the leader of the United States?
Well, first, there's no comparison to Nixon. The reason Nixon was impeached and why the Saturday Night Massacre of Archibald Cox had so much of an impact is that immediately the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General both resigned in protest. Nothing like that has happened here. This is a little bit more complicated. What happened is a very able Deputy Attorney General named Rothstein wrote a memo saying that basically Comey can no longer lead the FBI. He doesn't have the real credibility to do so. He's made too many mistakes. We don't know whether Rothstein wrote that memo on his own or whether he was urged to do it by the Attorney General or by the President himself. We need to find that out. The President then, I think, took advantage of that memo to do something that he probably wanted to do anyway, and that is fire Comey. So I think there are several separate questions. Should Comey have stayed on as the head of the FBI? I think the answer to that is no. I think he did lose the confidence of just about everybody, the way he dealt with the Clinton email investigation. Second, should it have been Donald Trump who fired him? I think the answer to that is also no, because he was under investigation, and the appearance of lack of justice can be very serious. But the third question is, if Donald Trump replaces Comey by an even more qualified, objective, neutral person, this will be a 1 or 2 day story. On the other hand, if he picks one of his cronies, it will be a bigger story. And then the final question is, if he doesn't pick an appropriate head of the FBI, Congress should call for an independent investigation with a commission like the 9/11 Commission or like many of the commissions that Israel has had over the years, headed by a former judge, headed by some very prominent people whose objectivity could never be questioned. So I think this is a serious issue, but I think it can be retrieved if President Trump does the right thing now.
All right, Professor. Well, let's turn to a very different topic, much closer to home here in the Middle East, but with very global implications. Millions of refugees have been fleeing from the Syrian conflict. Europe and the United States have been concerned about accepting these refugees onto their shores, but Jordan, Syria's neighbor, has been flooded with over 1 million Syrians fleeing for their lives. Now, while many are not aware of this, Dr. Jim Gordon of the Washington-based Center for Mind-Body Medicine has not forgotten and is actually in Jordan right now. So let's hear from him.
Hi, Alan. It's good to be with you again. I remember very well our mutual good friend Danny Grossman bringing me to your synagogue last fall to introduce us. We're here in Jordan right now, me and my Center for Mind-Body Medicine team, and we're working here with Syrian refugee leaders and with aid workers and with the Institute of Family Health of the Noor al-Hussein Foundation. And our work here, as it is in Israel and Gaza, is to teach people how to understand and help themselves using simple techniques of self-care and group support, and then to share what they're learning with the whole population. And here in Jordan, our focus is on Syrian refugees who've been terribly traumatized by the work there. And I just wanted to say that this program really would not have been possible without Danny bringing our Gaza faculty through Israel and into Jordan. So I'm very grateful to him for that. And our work in the region is always about helping people to understand and help themselves. And in the process, as the understanding of themselves grows, so too does the understanding of the other, the opposition, or people who are even seen as the enemy. And we've seen incredible results in terms of people being able to reduce their levels of trauma. We've published research on our work in Gaza showing an 80% reduction in post-traumatic stress disorder in both children and adults who participate in these 10-week-long small groups, learning techniques like slow, deep breathing to reduce stress and quiet the mind and body, and guided imagery to create imaginative solutions to seemingly insoluble problems, something obviously very important in a region that's so afflicted by difficult problems. And we get people up moving their bodies and shaking and dancing and freeing themselves up from the tension that weighs people down so much in the region. And I'm here with my colleague, Museret Kasebes, who manages our program here in Jordan. And she can tell you a little bit about what it's like implementing our work in this place and what's happening here with people. Museret.
Sure. So as Jim said, the need is absolutely enormous in this entire region. And what I feel our work is doing is creating these circles and these communities of healing. So being here and having an opportunity to meet with so many different people that come from so many different backgrounds, coming together in a circle and creating this community is really beautiful. And I feel because the need is so great, we have this enormous opportunity to help each other through these circles, through these communities, communities of healing. And I hope that it spreads, and I hope that these circles grow, and that we can play a role in helping that circle grow.
Great. You know, and I think about our work here and our work in Israel and Gaza as very much of a piece. It feels like our responsibility as human beings to reach out to those we feel connected with, to those other human beings. We're all in this larger circle of humanity here on this planet. And we've become, over the years, we've been working in Israel and Gaza since 2002, and I believe we're the only group that's working on a population-wide level with psychological trauma in both those places. And we have opportunities not only to work in Israel and to work in Gaza and sometimes to work in the West Bank as well, but also often enough to bring Israelis and Palestinians together in our training programs. And Danny's been enormously helpful in making that possible as well. And when we come together, we're able to promote, not only to teach people these techniques, these evidence-based scientific techniques of meditation and movement and working with drawings and imagery, but also to give people an opportunity to understand each other. And a couple things I wanted to sort of add. If viewers are interested in learning more, they can look at our website, cmbm.org. And they'll see articles from the New York Times about our work, and also a 60 minutes video that features our work with war-traumatized kids in both Gaza and Israel. And Alan, I think one of the questions that comes up as I'm talking with you is, how do you see this work of helping people to understand and help themselves? How do you see it as potentially contributing to the peace process? And what do you think that we can do as experts? I'm a psychiatrist and a professor at Georgetown Medical School, and our team are health and mental health professionals and community leaders. What can we do to promote better understanding and to facilitate the peace process? So I look forward to hearing your answer, and it's great to be here with you.
Oh, it's absolutely amazing what this group and this great doctor are doing. Look, no country in the world does as much to protect the rights and the interests and the health of enemy civilians. We're talking about Syrians. Syria is an enemy country, as Israel does. And it takes an Israeli Air Force Colonel, Danny Grossman, to have brought this about. Look, in the United States, there's a lot of resistance to even allowing Syrian refugees in. Likewise, we see that in many parts of Europe, but in Israel, Israelis are crossing the border at risks to themselves and promoting the health of Syrian civilians. I think this would contribute enormously to the peace process, and I think kol hakavod, all honor belongs to the people who are doing this and the great organizations. So I urge people to go on their website, watch the 60-minute, contribute, do whatever is necessary to promote Israeli efforts to help civilians. Look, as the Bible said, be good to strangers because we were strangers in the land of Egypt, bringing it up to date. Be kind to refugees because we tried to become refugees in the 1930s and 1940s, and no country would accept the Jews. And so I think Jews and Israel have a special obligation to be kind to people who need kindness and healing at this point in time. So congratulations on your great efforts, and keep it up. And if there's anything I can do to be helpful, just please let me know.
All right, well, to follow up, we thought we'd bring in your friend Danny Grossman, who worked to get the team of 5 Gazan mental health workers out of Gaza, across Israel, and into Jordan. Glad you could join us, Danny.
My pleasure.
All right, so tell us a little bit about what it was like to get these Palestinian professionals out of Gaza and why it was so special and important.
Well, it was absolutely critical to get these 5 people who are Gazan mental health professionals, but they're Arabic-speaking members of Jim Gordon's international NGO. Again, just a slight correction, Professor, this is not actually an Israeli initiative. We helped But this is Jim Gordon, who's based out of Washington, who helps people in war-torn areas of the world, people anywhere from Kosovo to natural disasters to places like Katrina in the United States, or after Haiti. We actually sent an Israeli psychologist from Hadassah together with a Palestinian psychologist, one of the people who is today in Jordan, together from Israel and from Gaza to go help in Haiti. So helping people is, I think, the model for creating a peaceful world, because then you have professionals working together, and that eventually will cause mutual respect. Now, the story of how we got them out of Gaza was a story of basic caring, nothing more than that. Yes, it was helpful that I'm a former military commander, so I was able to speak directly with people like the head of the Shabak, the head of our internal security, and the head of the Kogath, the coordinator for the territories, and speak directly with these generals. But more than that, everyone I talked to in every office cared. You remember, and this is what I would like to throw it back to you, Alan, you remember when we met with the head of the Shabak, the head of Israel's internal security, and we talked about what was the most important agenda on his to-do list, and he said was to improve the quality of life of the Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. And this is not political blah, blah, blah. This is a professional saying this is what he cares about. So I'd like you to perhaps reflect your own memory of what that meeting was when we met with the head of the Israeli security, and what do you think this type of mindset can do for bringing about peace?
Well, it was amazing. It was an amazing meeting. You know, when you meet with the head of Shabak, you think you're going to meet with a tough guy, and he is a tough guy, who only is concerned about stopping terrorism in the short run. And you meet somebody who has broad concerns for helping, again, enemies, helping people who seek to destroy Israel, helping the citizens of Gaza, the citizens of the West Bank. And there are so many Israelis who are trying to do that. I have a former student who has a hedge fund where Israelis and Palestinians together tried to start up companies. WaterGen, the company that I talked about at APAC, is trying to bring water into Gaza to help Gaza solve its terrible water problem. So I think you see Israelis across the board trying to improve the lives of the citizens of Gaza and the citizens of the West Bank for two reasons. Number one, they care. They care. They really care about the quality of life of their enemies. And number two, when people are happy in their lives and satisfied with their lives, they're less likely to take up a knife or a bomb and commit acts of terrorism. So it's both self-serving and generous. It's a win-win for everybody.
Well, Danny Grossman, thank you so much for joining us. Now, speaking of Israel's impact on the world, especially when it comes to providing humanitarian aid through technology, an incredible Israeli startup called WaterGen that you have been heavily involved in, Professor Dershowitz, is about to change our planet. Let's take a look at an interview I recently had with the company's executive chairman, Maxim Pasik. Let's hear about this. What does WaterGen technology do? This sounds incredible.
Yes, it's really it is. It's like a kind of miracles. So WaterGen created a revolutionary technology that can take the air that all of us breathe and convert it to the clean drinking water. So we have the patented technology that with very small amount of the electricity of the consumption, we can convert the air to the water. So actually we have small, medium and big devices that can make from 15 liters of water per day for houses, for the offices, for the hospitals, till hundreds of thousands of liters per day of clean drinking water. So
this is incredible.
It's really incredible because this is the most important problem of the world. By 2025, two-thirds of the world will have shortage of clean drinking water, and billions of people are suffering from this. Most of the diseases are coming from the
lack of clean water.
From lack of clean water. So actually, our vision is to solve this kind of crisis. We have created the special technology that is good from the small village, for the household, and to entire.
Now, every time I hear about this technology, I just can't believe that it's real. It's just so incredible. Now, Professor, you ran into Maxim at the recent Jerusalem Post conference in New York.
Yes.
Let's hear what the two of you had to say to one another.
Professor Dershowitz, you represented in the last APAC event Watergen. So how do you think this company can improve the Israel or worldwide?
Well, thank you very much. It was great being able to show the people of APAC how this amazing product works. It basically takes water out of the air. It sounds like it's magic, but it will help solve the water problems all over the world. And it's part of Israel's worldwide reputation as startup nation. If Israel can help give water to the world, to parts of the world that have no water today, and do it inexpensively and do it effectively, it will boost Israel's image. You know, when people say boycott Israel, they don't realize there are so many products that the world can't do without. And Watergen is one of those products that if you sell it to countries all over the world and help people who would otherwise not be able to get water, it will be amazing. It will be part of Israel's contribution to the world. Look, no country in history in the first 69 years of its existence has ever contributed so much to the world as Israel. And Watergen, this ability to create water out of air and create a little machine that can bring water to the home, water to big houses, water to whole cities, is just an amazing innovation, so typical of Israel and so typical of what immigrants like you who came from the Ukraine, people who came from the former Soviet Union, have brought to Israel and brought to the world. So congratulations for helping Israel maintain and increase its reputation as startup nation to the world.
Professor Dershowitz, I have another question to you.
Sure.
Do you think this kind of technology and our products can improve our relations with the Muslim world?
Without a doubt, they can, because many parts of the Muslim world are without water. Take, for example, the Gaza Strip today, which is on the ocean, on the sea, but nonetheless has a serious water problem, as does the West Bank. And so when an Israeli company can take water out of the air and bring it to the homes of people to drink, you know, there are Muslims who will say, well, we still don't like Israel, we don't like Zionism, but when you use Israeli products and they help feed your family, it can't help but create better relations between Jews, Muslims, Jews, Christians, Jews, Buddhists, Jews, you name it, anywhere in the world that you can help provide water will help relations between the nation state of the Jewish people and the people of the world.
Thank you very much, Professor Dershowitz.
Thank you.
Professor Dershowitz, is there anything that you want to add to what you said there?
Well, you know, I just am so marveling at this. What Israel does is it turns science fiction into life-saving reality. And I am so proud of Israel. I'm so proud of every Israeli company that does this. And the great book, Startup Nation, which was given as gifts to all the students who graduated the Harvard Business School several years ago, really projects the most positive aspects of Israel's life. And as I've said before, the best answer to BDS, which is a bigoted, anti-Semitic, anti-peace program, the best answer to boycotts is for Israel to make products that the world can't do without. I think about Stephen Hawking, who supports BDS, but who uses Israeli technology to help him speak and help him communicate. That's such hypocrisy. Barghouti, who founded BDS, wants to boycott Tel Aviv University, but he didn't want to boycott it when he was getting his PhD there. And I think what Israel does, providing these life-saving technologies and great technologies to the world, exposes the hypocrisy of BDS and brings a very, very deserved positive image of Israel to the world.
Well, Professor Dershowitz, it was so wonderful to have you today. It's unfortunately all the time we have left. Thank you so much for your time. I also want to thank all of our guests. If you'd like Professor Dershowitz to answer your questions, go to iltv.tv or our Facebook page and submit them. We'll see you again next week.